Hi, good morning, good afternoon, depending on your location. My name is Rob Ralston. I'm a Senior Business Development Executive with XTIVIA. Thank you for joining our webinar today. The topic for our webinar today is what's new with DB2 version 11.1. Before we begin today, here's a legal statement that we have to have. This presentation will be able to be downloaded, so please feel free to do so after we're completed. About XTIVIA. XTIVIA has been around since 1992. We have offices in Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Austin, Houston, St. Louis, New York, as well as Hyderabad, India. We have approximately 250 people globally. At XTIVIA, your success is our passion. We have a highly skilled and dedicated team to overcome any challenge. We work hard for our customers, and our success shows that. Within XTIVIA, we're a services and solutions-based company. We have 5 primary practice areas: application development, BIDW, CRM, database, SOA, and web portal, and CMS delivery. Our customers are what make XTIVIA great. As you can see from some of the highlighted customers that we have on this page, it's a very impressive list. This slide just shows a little accolades that XTIVIA has received for our commitment to our customers that independent people have reviewed, and we've been acknowledged from the Inc. 5000 to CIO Review 100 to the Denver Business Journal as one of the top software development companies in Colorado. I love this slide. This slide talks about our database management practice, obviously within DB2. Our total number of years that our DBAs have is a combined 263 years, with an average of 10.5 years within a database platform. We love this slide. We're proud of it. Our people are what make XTIVIA great. About IBM, I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call already knows who IBM is, but just want to talk about XTIVIA and IBM's partnership. We've been partners together since, well, actually for 16 years now. We support both the DB2 as well as the Informix database platforms, as well as the analytics. Okay, our presenters today, because that's why you're all here. We have 2 presenters today. Phil Anthony, DB2 sales leader from IBM. Phil has over 25 years of experience in the software industry with an expertise in OLTP, data warehousing, and analytics solutions. And Ember Crooks. Ember is a XTIVIA rock star, point blank. She's an IBM Gold consultant. She's an IBM champion. Ember and I have worked together for 3.5 years. She is just a great thought leader when it comes to DB2. Our customers love her. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Ember, and Ember will review our agenda for today's webinar.
Thanks, Rob. I thought I'd start by going through a little bit of our agenda, what we're looking to present here today. I'm going to start out going through the highlights of the newest version of DB2, DB2 version 11.1. I'm going to pick out some of my favorite features and describe them, and then I'm going to go through some licensing and packaging, both the changes with 11.1 and a couple of different ways that we think about editions and the various versions, that sort of thing, to decide what version of DB2 is right for you. And then finally, Phil's going to go through some new offerings and incentives, including Bridge to Cloud and DB2 for Big Data. So let's jump right into the highlights of DB2 11.1. 11.1 is a new version that was announced in April of this year and became generally available in June of this year. And the announcement also includes the end of marketing for several things related to 10.5 and end of service announcements for 9.7 and 10.1. So we'll talk about those a little later in the presentation. Now, I like this slide because it's really just a good summary of some of the features that are available, the changes that came in DB2 version 11. You can see off here for warehousing workloads, this is one of the big things about this release, is that we can now combine database partitioning and BLU. So we can apply the incredible benefits of BLU Acceleration to those really large workloads. We can now get to petabyte scale warehouses with that. On the transaction processing side, there are a lot of nice improvements. A few things, there's some nice improvements with pureScale and the ease of deploying it, and several other things that we'll go through in detail here. So this is a list of my favorite changes. I'm not going to sit here and read you the list. We're going to dive right in and go through these as far as what I'm particularly looking forward to. Before we get into those too much, I want to talk a little bit about the supported operating systems. This list of what operating systems 11.1 will support shouldn't be much of a surprise to anybody. The things to really be aware of here is that as far as discontinued operating systems, this will affect a couple of clients that I support. So HPUX will no longer be supported with DB2 11.1, and Solaris will also no longer be supported with DB2 11.1. Now these will be supported for customers on 10.5 through the end of service date for 10.5, but once that end of service date is reached for 10.5, these operating systems will no longer be supported. And that date has not been announced for the end of service for 10.5 just yet. One of my favorite features is always something having to do with improving upgrade processes. In this particular case, there's a couple of really nice features introduced here. The first one is a direct upgrade from DB2 version 9.7 all the way to 11.1. Usually we can only upgrade 2 full version releases at a time, but with this one we'll be able to upgrade from 9.7 Fixed Pack 11 all the way straight to 11.1. And I've got some customers who will probably be making use of this, so it's really something that I'm going to enjoy being able to do. Another really awesome thing here is that we're going to have the ability to roll forward through database version upgrades. Now this is only going to apply if you're at 10.5 Fixed Pack 7 or later. In these cases, what we'll be able to do is instead of taking a full offline backup as a part of that upgrade process, we'll be able to do the same kind of recovery from a full online backup. And that will significantly reduce the downtime that's needed for upgrade. Sometimes that full offline database backup is the largest portion of the outage required for a full version level upgrade. So that's something that I'm also really looking forward to. I love the improvements that they're coming up with in this area. Another nice upgrade improvement is that for HADR environments, for the standby servers, we used to have to take those and reinitialize them with a backup after upgrade. And now we'll be able to upgrade those. So it'll be a quicker process to getting high availability back in place after an upgrade. A nice feature on the hardware side on AIX systems only is hardware-based acceleration for compression. And a lot of us are running DB2, and this is very useful there. This slide has all the nice syntax features and a lot of those details, but what I want to focus on here is what this feature actually means. Now, in this chart on the right here, you can see backup durations for uncompressed, our normal software compression, and the hardware accelerated compression. And the trade-off for a compressed backup is that usually that we get a smaller size for the backup on disk, but we get a longer duration both for the backup and for the restore. And if we are able to take the backup uncompressed, we end up with that larger backup size, but a much shorter duration. And here you can see that the backup duration for the hardware compressed image using this new supported functionality is almost as fast as the uncompressed backup. And if you look at the chart on the left here, you can see that the size is slightly larger. The backup size is the blue bar here, and so in an uncompressed, you see you have a very large backup size. In the normal software compressed, you have a backup size that's just under about 40% in this particular example, and it's just over about 40% with the hardware compression. So you get a little bit larger file size, but that's vastly made up for by the backup runtime itself. You notice that that's very low compared to the software compression, and even more importantly, that restore time is low as well. Okay, so another feature of DB2 version 11.1 that is excellent, we have, this is particularly applicable to environments that have extremely high concurrency. However, it's a performance improvement that we get out of the box with no changes. We don't have to change a parameter. We don't have to implement some new feature or change the application. This is out of the box how DB2 works itself. So you can see that this improved buffer pool latching in highly concurrent workloads on a regular single server DB2 implementation, that in tests that IBM did in their Germany labs got 1.58% improvement in the transactions per second, just from this feature, not from implementing other features. And when you look at this in conjunction with pureScale, which is likely to be highly concurrent, you can see that there's an even greater one, that in tests in Germany, IBM was able to get a 2.1x improvement in the transactions per second. So that's a really nice feature. I always love a release of DB2 where I can say, hey, you might get a performance improvement right out of the box without doing anything special. With every fix pack, DB2 has been introducing improvements to BLU, and that's even more true of a full version level upgrade like this. BLU is one of the great new features with BLU on 11.1 is the ability to use database partitioning with, or also known as DPF, with BLU. So that means we can apply BLU environments, column organized tables, to much larger workloads than we were able to before. And this particular slide is a nice one from IBM that compares DB2 on BLU to the same workload done on a competitor's relational database management system. And in that case, being able to spread BLU across this larger database, this larger workload, in this case, they were able to get 1.9 times performance improvement. Now, not just leaps and bounds kind of things like that, but in much smaller areas, BLU performance has been improving with each fix pack and again with this version upgrade. In this particular situation, there was a test done where the upgrade alone, without any other things for a BLU workload, increased performance by 1.36 times. So that's a pretty good improvement. And that comes from a lot of different features that were updated and changed. I'm going to talk through some of those. There are a number of different features that were changed, as well as some performance improvements in things like CPU, in things like sort heap, and things like how the optimizer can analyze queries. So in the new features functionalities for BLU, there are some nice things here. One thing is the use of OLAP improvements, the use of OLAP syntax in SQL. Now these are our syntax elements that we frequently use in analytics environments, such as BLU or data warehousing environments. So it's nice to be able to have that syntax available. There's also additional Oracle compatibility support. This makes it easy for applications that are designed to work against Oracle to work against a database on DB2 instead. So there have been a few improvements in adding support for wide rows and logical character support there. Declared global temporary tables in most cases are now supported with BLU. Identity and expression generated columns. That may seem like a little thing, but it's something where when I was converting a small data warehouse into BLU a year or so ago, it was a real hurdle to get over. How are they going to replace those identity columns with something else? And it's nice to not have that hurdle anymore. European language support was added with code page 819. This was the #1 question that I got from a number of people when I spoke at the DB2 symposium in Eindhoven in the spring, was when was code page 819 support coming for BLU? And it's finally there, and that's a huge feature to a lot of our European clients. There are other nice features like not logged initially, row and column access control. That fine-grained access control within DB2 is now supported with BLU. Nested loop joins are now supported, along with some faster merge processing. So when we're looking at explain plans of queries in BLU, one of the things we look for is what I call the blue line. We want this line, this blue line, which defines what happens in the columnar data engine versus what happens in the row data engine. We want it to be as high in that explain plan as possible. And in DB2 10.5, there were a lot of things that would force us out of that columnar engine into that row engine. And in DB2 11, there's a lot of things that have been added so that these two explains are from the same query, one run on 10.5 and one run on 11.1. And just by the version change, we've moved that blue line, the CTQ operator, we've moved it a lot higher in the explain plan, thereby providing better performance for this query and others. Compatibility features are always a plus in DB2, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the Netezza ones that they have introduced in DB2 11.1 is because they've done it a little bit differently. We're not using the compatibility vector, instead we're using this SQL compat DB2 registry variable. If that's set to NPS, it tells DB2 to interpret the SQL much like Netezza SQL. It includes compatibility features like double dot notation, the ability to specify a database object with the additional identifier, and to use different operators for exponents and several other things, to understand NZ PLSQL, and to do several other things like that that are very useful to be able to use Netezza-like syntax against a DB2 database. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read this whole slide to you. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of different values, a lot of different features listed here. I'm going to talk about some of them in a little bit more detail. A few things to notice are just in the date time section, there are these new functions that are used for date math, to find hours between, minutes between, seconds between, days between, or weeks between. And then also we see over here in dealing with strings, there are a number of regular expression functions that I'm really excited to get my hands on and really excited to work on. One of the things that was added with DB2 11.1 is support for the plus as the outer join operator. This is more of an Oracle-like syntax, but the enablement of Oracle compatibility mode is not required in order to make use of this feature. So that's a great feature for situations where you can't enable Oracle compatibility, maybe your vendor doesn't support it, but you still want to make use of some of those different syntax details. The regular expression functions, I'm a huge fan of Perl and using Perl, and therefore I'm a huge fan of regular expressions too. Being able to use regular expressions in SQL in some way is something that I'm really looking forward to playing with. I really want to get my hands on. There are several functions that they've added to make this easy. The regular expression count function will let you count the number of times a particular regular expression is matched within a string. You can also get the starting or ending position of a matched string. You can also have a Boolean value, a true or false, indicating if a particular pattern is found. And of course, a replace function and a substring function as well. Okay, so that's my whirlwind tour of the new features that I absolutely love in DB2 11. On now to talk a little bit about licensing and packaging of DB2. Most DBAs are very familiar with the particular editions that we can have, and this is the order that I think of them in. I think of, at the top, we've got Advanced Enterprise Server Edition, which is completely unlimited on hardware and includes just about every feature out there. And on the bottom, we have DB2 Express C, which has a somewhat limited feature set, but is completely free to use in a limited capacity. All of these in the middle, that's where you're going to make your best decisions is, okay, what features do I need? What server environment am I working on? Which one of those do I need to actually go with? So I've got a couple of tables that I use to kind of help lay this out. And this is just kind of listing some details for each of the DB2 11.1 editions. Developer Edition is kind of a special case. For Developer Edition, it's only authorized for a single user. However, it comes with each and every one of these other editions, so you can use whichever one of these other editions you want for that single particular user. The idea being, of course, that that person is going to be developing for implementations that may be done on either of these other editions. The baby of the family, Express-C, is completely free to use, but you do not get support from IBM, and there are also no fix packs available, so you can't apply a fix pack to the code. You can still get use of a fix pack by installing the most recent code and moving to using that code. However, you also will probably only be able to get the most recent version of Express-C. You can't go back and get prior ones like you can the fix packs in the other editions. There are also some very severe capacity limitations for Express-C. For Express-C, we're looking at 2 CPUs and 16 gigs of memory as your limitations for what you can install and use that server on. You're also not only not going to have some of the advanced features, but you're also not going to have the main kind of suite of DB2 features. There are several things that we think of as core to DB2 that we actually don't get with Express-C. WSE, Workgroup Server Edition, is actually a very fully functioning and fully featured version of DB2. The only base feature that it's missing is materialized query tables. And that may be an update from previous versions. They changed this from version to version. The limitations for the Workgroup Server Edition ones, both the standard and the advanced, are 16 cores and 128 gigabytes of memory. If you move from there up to the Advanced Workgroup Server Edition, there the main difference that you're getting is you're getting those advanced features. You're getting table compression, you're getting BLU, you're getting pureScale, all of those sorts of things are available in the Advanced. And then when we move to Enterprise Server Edition, the main difference is that there are no limits at the hardware, and the same goes for Advanced Enterprise Server Edition. I've included a nice link in the presentation here to look at some of these within the DB2 Info Center so you can understand them when you're looking at a specific scenario. Now I wanted to take a minute to talk about some of the licensing from a virtual perspective. And this is something I blogged about not too long ago on db2commerce.com. It's licensing DB2 on virtual is extremely easy. You basically only have to license your virtual cores, or if it's cheaper, you could license your physical host as well. And DB2 is certified to run on a large number of virtualization systems, so you don't have to worry about it not being compatible with those systems. To make things even easier, DB2 has introduced this new direct licensing model, which I'm really kind of excited about. It's a new delivery mechanism for DB2 licenses. You can get your hands on it, and you can deploy it either on premises in a private or a public cloud. And there are 2 real editions. There's a standard edition, which has all the database features of Workgroup Server Edition, and the Advanced Edition, which has all the features of Advanced Enterprise Server Edition. But within that, there's a new metric called the virtual processor core. And this virtual processor core makes it really easy to say a CPU is a CPU. I am licensing this CPU for my virtual server. I don't care if that CPU is the slowest, oldest CPU there is or the latest, most powerful, up-to-speed CPU. No matter what the power of that processor, you're still paying the same price. So if you're moving from one type of processor to another type of processor, you don't have to worry about what that's doing to your licensing. Now, the other thing with DB2 Direct is that you're paying for your licensing on a monthly basis. And in a lot of environments, certainly in some of the retail environments that I've spent a lot of time on, there's a particular time of year where they need 10 times the capacity that they need most of the rest of the year. And that makes it so that they can get that capacity just for that short period of time that they need it for, and then reduce their costs throughout the rest of the year rather than having a server server sitting idle that's fully licensed for DB2. So it's really nice to be able to deal with that sort of scenario. Okay, so the Advanced Workgroup and Enterprise Edition are the ones that include all the extra features in DB2 11. Let's see, there's only really one optional package in addition to these two. There's the Advanced Recovery feature, which is really the only thing that's broken out. There's not a lot of different features that are broken out this time. So if we're thinking about which DB2 11.1 edition you might want from a feature perspective, this is a useful chart to understand. If you're looking, for example, for native encryption, native encryption is a great feature that was introduced in a fixed pack of 10.5. I've got a customer using native encryption, and it's extremely easy to use, and that's going to be included in every single edition of DB2 with 11.1. It's not an add-on, it's just part of what's there, and that includes DB2 Express C, which is really nice to have to be able to play with it in even your smallest development environments. There's a 2-server limited pureScale that's being introduced that is kind of an alternative to HADR for high availability, but also leaves you with the ability to be able to scale up very quickly if you need to. And that's included with everything except for Express C, and that's even in the Workgroup Server Edition and the Enterprise Server Edition that don't usually include those advanced features. Full DB2 pureScale is only in the Advanced Editions. Multidimensional clustering is now in every edition except for Express C. BLU is only in the Advanced Editions. Data compression is only in the Advanced Editions. Data Server Manager Enterprise with historical data collection is included in the Advanced Editions and is one of only, I believe, 2 features now that are available at an additional cost for the standard editions. And I've included a link to the chart in the Info Center that I use quite frequently because there's probably about 20 or 30 other features that you can look at besides these main ones that you may want to know what edition of DB2 that particular feature is included in. So overall, if you're looking to make a decision, there are 2 different decision points. The first decision point is what features do I need? And depending on what features you need, that's what's going to make you choose A WSE over WSE. It might make you choose A ESE over ESE, or it may have you choose Direct Advanced over DB2 Direct Standard Edition. The other decision point is how much hardware am I going to run this on? If you have a server that is larger than 16 CPUs and larger than 128 gigabytes of memory, that's what might lead you to choose the Enterprise editions over the Workgroup editions. Finally, I wanted to mention a couple of packaging differences that kind of stood out to me with 11.1 that are different than previous versions. First is that federation for homogeneous federation, that is DB2 to DB2, is included in every edition. But the additional wrappers, so if you're connecting to a Oracle system, an Informix system, or DashDB, some of the cloud stuff, those wrappers are included in the Advanced Editions now. I mentioned encryption being included. This is something that makes a lot of sense for a number of environments, banking especially, but also retail and a number of other industries. That's included in all packaging, and DB2 11 also introduces enterprise key management into that picture to make that easier. So with the announcement of DB2 11, also we got the end of marketing announced for DB2 version 10.5. And end of marketing means as of now, you will no longer be able to buy 10.5. And that includes no longer being able to buy things that were previously sold in separate offerings. The encryption offering, the business application and continuity offering, and the IBM DB2 BLU Acceleration in memory offering. Those are no longer available because they've been rolled into different parts of the product in 11.1. End of service for 9.7 and 10.1 has been announced. End of service will be September 30th of 2017. That's about a year from when the initial broadcast of this particular webinar. And that's something where that means that it's important to start planning now for upgrade. Upgrades can take a long time to work through, and they can be something that you want time to actually do. And if you're needing any help with upgrades, XTIVIA is happy to help you with that sort of thing. We see a lot of upgrades. We see clients coming in with older software. I did an upgrade last year of a version 8.0 base to 9.7. So even the very difficult or the very neglected upgrades we're able to easily help with. And that completes my coverage of 11.1 new features and licensing and packaging. I'd like to hand it off now to Phil to talk about new offerings and incentives for hybrid deployments.
Okay, thank you, Ember. I'd like to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about DB2 on the cloud and how customers can realize benefits such as, faster innovation by focusing on new applications and features, gaining more insights from their data, rather than spending time on the typical administrative tasks associated with setting up and maintaining your database environment. Better IT economics is also a great benefit of our cloud platforms. It allows you to save on upfront capital costs, eliminate the need to purchase database software and hardware, and get you up and running a lot more quicker. And lastly, one of the other benefits here that I want to talk about today is the ability to lower your risk of failure. Leveraging our DB2 on cloud and our fully managed database services really lets the developers focus on the technology at heart, the applications, and being able to bring value to their end customers much more quicker. So moving to the next slide, I'll jump in here. It's important that you all understand that DB2 on the cloud is really the same DB2 that you've been used to on premises. So moving to the cloud should really enhance your business and not disrupt it. I think there's a lot of fear out there about moving to the cloud, and hopefully by the end of this presentation we'll dispel all of that. DB2 on cloud offers really, as I mentioned, the same functionality as our on-premise version of DB2. So it includes the Oracle PL/SQL compatibility feature. So if there are applications out there that are written in Oracle today that you'd like to move to the cloud and leverage the benefits of DB2, that can be easily accomplished. The IBM Cloud Data Services team is really the team that really provisions and hosts the database for you. We have over 30, I think it's now actually 40 IBM soft layer data centers around the world that DB2 is hosted on. In addition to soft layer, if for some reason your applications are already hosted on AWS and you'd like to ensure that the database is co-located with the applications, we are also providing DB2 on cloud on the AWS platform as well. There are 9 different DB2 on cloud instance configurations available, which makes it very easy for us to determine which is the most appropriate configuration for your workloads, whether they be transactional or data warehousing. So really, the benefit here is that DB2 on the cloud really gives you that agility of the cloud. You get that instant provisioning. It's a monthly billing process, and it allows you to really start, to stop, to grow, downsize your usage as your business needs. So it's very, very flexible to change. And the other thing I'd like to mention here is that because your database administrators yourselves are really controlling the environment, you still don't lose that control. You have the ability to manage and monitor and tune the environment just like you did your DB2 databases that are on-premise. Moving to the next slide, this is really, some of the reasons why people start using, the cloud or DB2 on the cloud. The primary value propositions include time to productivity. With DB2 on cloud, this can be provisioned in just a matter of hours and not weeks or months that it can often take to get a DB2 environment set up on premise by the time you have to actually procure any additional hardware, get your infrastructure set up, and then start installing software. So it's really a lot of benefit there in terms of time to productivity. The cloud economics are here as well. Basically, you have usage-based spending now, OpEx versus CapEx expenditures, which it makes it a lot easier to get approvals and to get started on your projects. In addition, you've got the development flexibility. With DB2 on cloud, there are a number, 30 or 40 hosting sites available worldwide for DB2 on cloud. So this allows you to actually get the data closer to where your actual end customers are. And then additionally, for some of you DBAs, it's hard to, you're always spread thin. There's always somebody that needs something done. So this can greatly enhance your ability to spend time focusing on new applications, new databases that really save your company money or get them in a more competitive state. And then lastly, this is DB2, so it's trusted technology. It's been around for a long time. It's been enhanced greatly, and it provides pretty much the lowest total cost of ownership in the industry today. Moving to the next slide, some of the use cases that DB2 on cloud addresses. Obviously, it's very easy to lift and shift DB2 from on-prem to the cloud. And that is just, one specific use case of taking a production environment and moving it up to DB2 on the cloud. But there are also other, use cases that I wanted you folks to consider. And you probably have already had these discussions in your own shop. But, for development projects or for prototyping, a new application, DB2 on cloud makes it very easy to quickly get something set up, demonstrate a positive ROI for your line of business executives, and get approval to move forward with the project. Another use case might be that you want to increase your availability, set up maybe a DR environment for your DB2 environments. You can easily now create a DB2 secondary server on DB2 on the cloud and use your existing technologies on-prem DB2 HADR and configure your warm standby server in the cloud. So it's a great way to leverage the cloud for a DR site. And then, there might be some applications in your shop where you've got many older servers that are going to be needing a refresh, or there might be a spread of servers across your environment supporting many different DB2 applications and databases. This would be a great opportunity to consolidate and streamline onto a new platform that is expertly configured to support DB2. So again, number of different use cases here, a lot of new entry points to get to the cloud. Okay, moving to the next slide. As I mentioned a second ago, DB2 on cloud instances are really expertly engineered by our development team. So there are a number of different configurations available, a total of 9 DB2 on cloud configurations. If you actually go out to bluemix.com and select the data and analytics portion of the menu, you can see all of the different DB2 on cloud configurations. They range from small to double XL. Some of them are available as virtual machines, and some of them are bare metal. There's 2 classes of databases available. One is a standard configuration, and the other is advanced. The Workgroup server edition that you're accustomed to using is what we call our standard configuration on the cloud. And the advanced version is what you may be used to with advanced Workgroup or Advanced Enterprise Server Edition. So basically, you choose which type of instance you'd like, standard or advanced, and then configured based on your workloads, the actual size of the environment that you prefer. Okay, moving to the next slide. You're probably wondering, well, who does what when DB2 is on the cloud? So this is kind of a good chart that explains, who does what. And as I mentioned before, this is DB2 on Cloud is a hosted offering. And so basically, IBM will set up the VM, set up the environment for you, install the DB2 product, and then basically allow you to, create any additional instances that you would like, tune it, add additional instances. And basically, we're turning the keys over to you once we've got your infrastructure set up and an instance created. So you can see that this still gives you a ton of flexibility for supporting, your customers in your environment without having the headaches of actually doing the setup of the VMs, configuring the hardware, and installing the products. Okay, so moving to the next slide. This chart really just summarizes the different deployment options available for DB2 today. So on the far left, essentially this is your on-premise configuration where, you've got to, procure the hardware, install the software, do all the administration, and get the database created and loaded and up and running. This flexibility, this provides you guys the most flexibility, but on the other hand, it is, gives you the complexity of the administration overhead as well. If you look way to the right of the chart, you'll see that DB2 comes in two additional flavors called -DB. And I just wanted to call this out today because some of you folks may be interested in a fully managed database environment. This is truly a database as a service for warehousing or transaction processing. And essentially, IBM Cloud Data Services team manages the entire environment from the actual creation, monitoring, managing, and tuning as well. So you are only responsible for loading data and making sure that your business objectives are met. And I think as far as today goes, we're really focused on DB2 on the cloud, which is more of a hosted environment. So I kind of view this as the best of both worlds because we're going to take care of a lot of the setup of the infrastructure for you, but we're going to let you have the flexibility and control to manage the DB2 environment to your needs. Okay, so moving to the next slide. So that was kind of an overview of DB2 on Cloud. And what I wanted to do here is just highlight the bridge to cloud offer that IBM has made available to our DB2 customers. So essentially, for a limited time, you can now add a DB2 on Cloud environment off-prem on our soft layer environment or on AWS to augment your current on-premises DB2 environments. And essentially, the way it works is that we're basically looking at our customers that are renewing their subscription and support contracts. And at that time, we're offering for a small incremental uplift on their renewal, last year's renewal price, roughly around 20%. We can provide some DB2 on Cloud images hosted for our clients. So now that they can really, start moving some of the databases out to the cloud, see how they like it, ensure that, this is the type of cloud environment that they were looking for, and essentially giving them a risk-free opportunity to start moving and testing their applications and databases on the cloud. The next slide actually goes into the offer in a little more detail. So basically what we're doing here is we're giving you what's called a dual entitlement program. So this means you get to continue your on-prem subscription and support for your current DB2 licenses, and you're getting some new DB2 on Cloud hosted configurations as well. You may decide that you only want to bridge a portion of your SNS, which is fine, but the minimum contract term is 12 months. So essentially, For the period of 12 months, you get to test out and try DB2 on the cloud. Really no risk. If for some reason you're not 100% satisfied with DB2 on cloud and the capabilities it provides, you can resort back to your on-premise licenses and SNS with no reinstatement charge. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is really a no-risk offer, and it really lets you explore all of the capabilities and benefits of DB2 on the cloud. So on the next slide, some of the benefits of bridge to cloud. I think we covered these, but essentially it's really it basically allows you to develop and implement your cloud strategy. You get to evaluate, do I want to do a full-blown cloud implementation, do I want a hybrid solution? And it allows you to do that without doubling your expenses. So you don't have to go out and procure, full-blown DB2 on cloud configurations. We're going to leverage your current SNS stream, SNS cost to get you into a DB2 on cloud environment for a very low cost. The benefits, as I mentioned, can be used for development environments, testing, production, and in many cases, customers are also using DB2 on cloud to support a high availability and disaster recovery scenario as well. So that essentially covers the DB2 on cloud program. What I'd like to do now is actually move on to talk about another great offering that we brought to the table this year for our clients. It's called DB2 for Big Data. So basically, DB2 for Big Data essentially is providing our customers with a software bundle. It really contains a couple of different products. And essentially, before we get into the specifics of the bundle, I just wanted to mention that, really, as you look at your big data and the big data ecosystem, there's a tremendous amount of influence big data is having on just about every industry. And it's really, in some cases, causing some very disruptive forces. There's a lot of questions out there, that companies are faced with, in terms of, do I need to use a Hadoop environment for my logical data warehouse? How much data should I still retain in my relational databases? In addition to that, should I keep some of the data on-prem or should I move it to the cloud? So essentially what we're providing here is an offering which gives our clients the flexibility to leverage all of the choices available to them, such as, how much data do I need to put in Hadoop? How many DB2 licenses do I need going forward to support my enterprise data warehouse? And as I said, how much of this information do I want to put on the cloud? What we're providing here is a very flexible vehicle to eliminate all of the concern and risk around purchasing individual products to support these initiatives. So moving to the next slide, this is pretty much DB2 for Big Data in a nutshell is essentially a software bundle. With this product, we're giving our clients DB2 Advanced Edition as well as IBM Big Insights for Apache Hadoop. And essentially, you get to deploy either product in the quantities needed. You may decide that you need to increase the number of PVUs or cores for your enterprise data warehouse. Then you can deploy this product as DB2 Advanced Edition to support your growth in your EDW. Perhaps a lot of the data from your EDW is now getting cold. You're moving that data into Hadoop. You can now easily transition your licenses from your AESE Enterprise Data Warehouse over to Big Insight Virtual Server nodes to support the growth that is going on in the Hadoop environment. So this really gives you the flexibility to shift your licenses back and forth as your data needs shift. The benefit of this offering is that you can also leverage your existing DB2 licenses and trade them up to DB2 for Big Data to get the added flexibility and investment protection. So DB2 for big data really comes in a couple of different license flavors. You can buy it by the terabyte or the PVU. And as I mentioned, you can also leverage your existing entitlements of DB2 ESE or Advanced Editions and use a trade-up process to move to DB2 for big data. Moving to the next slide, really the business value behind this I think we've talked about, but essentially what we're doing is we're really providing investment protection. So that way you're not financially penalized as you shift your data back and forth or move your data from your relational environment to Hadoop. You know, a lot of customers may have purchased a lot of DB2 licenses for relational. They're now moving the data into Apache Hadoop, and you know, those licenses in essence would become shelfware. So with this new DB2 for big data product, you can now leverage your investment in DB2 and use these licenses as your data and business needs change as you move data from traditional relational environments into Hadoop. So it does give you extreme deployment flexibility. As long as you stay within the quantity of licenses purchased, you know, you can deploy it as either DB2 Advanced Edition or Big Insights. Additionally, I'm not sure if all of you folks are aware of this, but in DB2 we have what is a very robust SQL engine. This MPP SQL engine is the exact same SQL engine we put in our Big SQL product, which supports Apache Hadoop. So essentially we're preserving your investment in any of the work that may have been done on an EDW environment, such as SQL reporting. As you move that data into Big Insights, those same reports will run in the Hadoop environment. So there's no need to actually have to rewrite a report or an application just because you've moved it from DB2 in a data warehouse environment into a Big Insights environment. So there's a great opportunity here to leverage the investment you've made in your applications, gaining that portability as you shift data from relational to Hadoop. So again, you know, in addition to supporting, you know, SQL across these platforms, we also providing a number of data virtualization capabilities with DB2 and Big Insights and Big SQL, such that you can now federate information from many other non-IBM data sources as well. And then moving on to the next slide, this is just an example. If you purchase DB2 for big data in a quantity of, let's use the terabyte licensing model, the bottom half of this chart. If I went and purchased a terabyte of DB2 for big data, what I'm actually getting is the ability to deploy these licenses in a number of ways. I can mix and match the number of virtual servers I need to the number of terabytes of DB2 AESC I need. If for some reason, you know, I purchased a terabyte of DB2 for big data from my enterprise data warehouse, which is now DB2 Advanced Edition, and I didn't really need the additional licenses, I can easily use those licenses and deploy them as virtual servers of Big Insights. So essentially, you know, for 1 terabyte of DB2 for big data, you can mix and match to meet the needs of either your Hadoop or your DB2 Advanced Edition environments. So there's a great there's a tremendous amount of flexibility here. It provides a tremendous amount of investment protection as you move forward. Since there are so many unknowns going forward in terms of, you know, where are you going to land the data? You know, is it going to be on-prem or in the cloud? Is it going to be relational or Hadoop? This is a great vehicle for you to preserve that investment you've made in DB2. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to the team, and thank you for your time this afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Thank you, Ember. That was great stuff. Just a quick housekeeping note. This presentation will be able to be downloaded in the next couple days, as well as the PowerPoint from GoToMeeting. So first off, again, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. We do have several questions in the queue for Ember and Phil. I think the first one will go to Ember. The question was, how do I upgrade DB2 to 11.1 from DB2 9.5?
Thanks for unmuting me. So the problem with an upgrade from 9.5 or before to 11 is simply that we can't do it in one jump. You'll have to upgrade first to a version in between 9.5 and 11.1 and then do a second upgrade to the later version to 11.1. It's not difficult, it's just kind of basically two upgrades in one.
Right, and to that point, Ember, XTIVIA, we can do that for customers. I think we've done in the past for several.
Oh yeah, many times.
Thank you. The next question that I have is, what edition of DB2 do I need for pureScale?
PureScale, you're going to need one of the advanced editions. On 11.1, you can't buy it separately. It used to be you could buy some of the PureScale functionality separately. But on 11.1, you're going to need either Workgroup, Advanced Workgroup Server Edition or Advanced Enterprise Server Edition. Either one of those two will have what you need for PureScale.
Great, thank you. Then the same is applied to BLU Acceleration. What DB2 version?
Yeah, so BLU Acceleration, again, is going to be something you're going to need one of those advanced editions for. That includes both the compression that is very core to BLU Acceleration and also all of the Columnar organization features. So either Advanced Workgroup Server Edition or Advanced Enterprise Edition.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question is, what kind of workload is PureScale appropriate for? I'm not sure if Phil wants to address that or Ember.
I can cover that one.
Sure, go ahead, Ember.
Okay, so DB2 PureScale is really designed for online transaction processing workloads, high transaction processing workloads. It's not designed so much for analytic environments. Some of the features of PureScale that make it great for those kinds of workloads would include things like the ability to scale out, to add additional servers, and the ability to apply, to have a lot of different servers to essentially apply to your data. PureScale is very much a competitor to Oracle's RAC in order to be able to apply more resources to a transaction processing environment. However, it is extremely highly scalable too. You get a lot of benefit for adding each additional server in.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question we have is, what kind of workload is BLU Acceleration appropriate for?
So BLU Acceleration is really an analytics environment. You actually get worse insert and update performance if you're talking about singleton row updates and inserts. So you really don't want to try to apply BLU Acceleration to a transaction processing environment. You can mix the two with some creative settings and some creative things, but mostly the columnar tables themselves are only going to be for analytics.
Okay, great, thanks. Those are all the questions we had in the queue. So if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and end our session today. But I thought it was great information, and I just want to thank our presenters, Ember and Phil. You guys did a great job, and with that, we'll wrap this up. And thank you for attending, and look for us out at IBM Watson next week out in Las Vegas.